morning, friends. I was just giving an introduction to the wide range, or rather the perplexing range of books we have. That is, I told you that if you go to any bookstall which deals with our religious texts, there are so many texts, and you will be wondering as to which book is important and which book is not important, which book is the primary text and which book is the secondary text. So in the last session, I was telling you about the primary text. In the last, I think, 2 sessions, we discussed what are the primary texts, that is, the Vedas, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. So these 3 are supposed to be the primary texts. And we are now coming to, now I will tell you what are the secondary texts, because these are again too many. Primary text is something like the doctrine, the philosophical doctrine. It gives they give an idea about the basic philosophical doctrine, the core philosophy. And I have been saying that Hinduism is something which is based on the philosophy of the Upanishads. This is one religion which is supported by the philosophy. Other religions, of course, they are not supported by philosophy, whereas Hinduism is supported by the philosophy of the Upanishads. So here, when we come to the secondary texts, we see 2 types of texts. Secondary texts, we see two types of texts. One is called Itihasa, the other is called Purana. I do not know whether you have heard these names. And for these, there are 2 books which are categorized under the heading of Itihasa. You may show the slide 44. There are 2 books called Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana, it becomes Ramayana. We should not pronounce it as Ramayana or anything like that, Ramayana, because the name is Rama. The name of the character, the name of the hero, or the name of the avatar, the name of the god who has descended and then who has assumed that name is Rama. So Ramayana, that is the path of Rama, the way in which he lived, Rama's way of life, the way in which he lived, that the code of dharma, the code of ethics which he established, that is the value system for which he stood. So that is all described in Ramayana. So this is one text which is called Itihasa. There is another text also which is called Itihasa, that is Mahabharata. I have seen young students pronouncing it as Mahabharata. It should not be pronounced like that. Maha means great. Maha is related to the English word mighty. Mahat is related to mighty. Mahabharata. Bharata means relating to the Bharata clan. These are all the characters who are all described in that text. They are all princes, relating to 2 groups of princes, all related to the Bharata clan, all connected to that Bharata clan. Bharata was a great emperor who lived much earlier. So these people called Pandavas and Kauravas, they are 2 groups of princes, one representing righteousness and the other representing unrighteousness. There is a fight between this righteousness and unrighteousness. So that is a huge text. Why this text has become huge means there are so many episodes in between. There are so many subplots in between. You see, if you take one Shakespeare's play, there is a main plot and there is a small subplot also. So like that, if you take the story of Mahabharata, the central theme is the story relating to these Kauravas and Pandavas, the 2 groups of cousins. Whereas there are so many people, there are so many sub-stories. That is, some sage comes and relates some story. Suppose Pandavas, they are in the forest. They are driven to forest by their cousins. Their kingdom was snatched by deceitful means, and then these people are driven to the forest. So at that time, when these people are dwelling in the forest, facing all types of difficulties, then some sage comes and tells the story of Rama. Oh Dharmaraja, you are suffering like this. But earlier we had another very, very great king called Rama. So that very great king also, he suffered like you. So he tells the whole story of Ramayana. So that Ramayana becomes a small part of Mahabharata. Ramayana is there in Mahabharata also. A few chapters are there. So similarly, there is another story of a king Nala, N-A-L-A, Nala. King Nala and his wife Damayanti, how they suffer. There is another big story of Harishchandra, a king who stood for truth. He was always standing by truth, always truthful, never told a lie. That was his nature. And then somebody wanted to test it. One sage wanted to test it. So he puts so many problems, he creates so many problems for that king, and he suffers. That king suffers a lot and ultimately comes out victorious. So the story of a king who stood for truth. So all types of stories and various other episodes, and then some episodes relating to gods, all those things they are told. So that is why it has become a very huge book. And I was telling you that Mahabharata is about 3 times the size of the collected works of Shakespeare. So it is like that. Then, so this Mahabharata and Ramayana, these two are called Itihasa. Itihasa, literally it means Iti Iha Asa. Iti Iha Asa means this happened so. This was like this. It was like this. So which means it is partly history, partly historical. I will not go into all those details because there is a dispute whether these books are totally fictitious, totally allegorical, or there is some element of history. There are reasons to believe that these things have happened because there is so much of evidence, physical evidence, say about Rama, physical evidence about say Krishna and say Mahabharata war. So maybe historical characters, maybe over a period of time eulogized, and then some sort of divine characters are also brought in between. So some sort of divine element has been added to that. It could have happened because these stories, they happened long ago. We don't even know the antiquity. So these Ramayana and Mahabharata are called say Itihasa. And an introductory book, the best introductory book I found to these books was Chakravarti Rajagopalachari. He was the first Governor General of India. He was a very eminent politician and an eminent Sanskritist, eminent writer. So this gentleman, he wrote books, several books, but he wrote some introductory books on Mahabharata and Ramayana. His name is Rajagopalachari, briefly called Rajaji. These books are published by the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. If you just Google search or do something, say you will get the details of these books, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Mahabharata deals with the story of, it is called an epic. Both the books are called epics. And Mahabharata is an epic which is several times huge, several times bigger than a Greek epic like Homer's Iliad or Odyssey. So it is like that. So then we come to the next slide. There are other texts called Purana. You should not pronounce it as Purana or anything like that. Purana. It is not simple na. It is not Purana. Purana becomes Hindi. Ye Purana hai, ye cheez Purani hai. So something like that. Purana. It is something similar. Meaning is same. Purana. So Purana is partly mythological. It is more mythological, let us say. It is more mythological and less of history. Because there the stories relate more to various divine characters. There is what is called a Vishnu Purana, telling about Vishnu. There is another Purana called Shiva Purana, telling about Shiva. There is another Purana called Linga Purana, that again talking about Shiva. There is again some other Purana, Devi Bhagavatam, it is talking about Shakti. So like that, we have got 18 prominent Puranas. And each Purana will be of the size of, say, about 400-500 pages text. About 400 to 500 pages text, each Purana. And there are some which are 3 times bigger, 4 times bigger. There are some, the smallest Purana will be about 200 to 300 pages book. The largest Purana will be about 10,000 pages also. So it ranges. There are some older Puranas which are huge. So these Puranas, they talk about more about say some god and then all the miracles of those gods. So these things which we see. But one important thing we have to note is, this is an attempt to harmonize various systems of worship which existed in those days. I was telling you, the Indian sages, they did not go about demolishing all things. Like in other countries, when a religion came up, they took the support of king and then they tried to demolish all other existing systems. It never happened in India, whereas, because the kings, they were not bothered. Kings, they were only bothered about, say, right conduct, they were only bothered about the Upanishadic philosophy and things like that, and probably they were also supporting one particular belief system, but then they did not go about destroying other systems. So it was the duty of these sages, it was the responsibility, the duty, or the vision, let us say it was the vision of these sages, who compiled various books like this and then who brought them all under the umbrella of the Upanishads. So some gentleman who also respects Upanishads, who also respects Gita, he is in this Vishnu tradition. So he writes one Vishnu Purana. So traditionally what people say is that all these Puranas are written by one gentleman called Vyasa, but many modern scholars, they don't say, they don't think that they were all written by one sage. It is, I personally feel that they were written by different people. So anyway, these Purana, suppose I belong to the Vishnu tradition. So I write Vishnu Purana. And then I say Vishnu is the supreme. In philosophy or Upanishads, we saw that the idea of divine was, it is pure existence, consciousness, infinitude, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. We called it Brahma, the supreme Brahman. So if I am a Vishnu follower, I am respecting Vishnu, and at the same time I am respecting Upanishads. I am respecting the Vedas, I am respecting the Upanishads, I am respecting Gita. So what do I do? I will say that yes, this my Vishnu is there in that Upanishad. My Vishnu is what is told in that Upanishad. So what I will do is that I will weave some stories. I will write some stories saying that, oh, Vishnu was like this, and then Vishnu is the supreme reality, and then from Vishnu this all thing has emerged. And then at the same time, I am not condemning all other people. I am not condemning Shiva. I am not condemning, say, Parvati. I am not condemning Ganesha. I am also showing them as fairly important people who are also, say, secondary in nature. So that is how this system existed. Suppose I am a Shiva follower. What do? I will say that Shiva is what is there in that Upanishads. I am respecting Shiva. I am also respecting Upanishads. So what do I do? So I take my Shiva into that Upanishadic fold. And then I will say, okay, this Shiva system is what is there, and then Shiva is the supreme, and then Vishnu of course becomes secondary, number 2, and number 3, etc., etc. Then other people will be there. So some sort of hierarchy is created there. And our people were also, intelligent enough to build some relationship among these gods. So Vishnu, say this Parvati, this Shiva's consort, she is supposed to be the sister of Vishnu. So Vishnu and say Shiva becomes cousins. They become cousins. So like that. And then Ganesha becomes the son of Shiva and Parvati. So they established some sort of family relationship. Some relationship has been established among so many gods, so that these the followers will not quarrel. Anyway, gods will not quarrel. The followers should not quarrel. So that is why they established some sort of relationship. So this is what we see. And this Purana we should see as allegorical in nature. Puranas, they are more mythological in nature, and all the stories relating to gods. Puranas, they tell about creation, they tell about say various exploits and various miracles of these gods, and then they also talk about some kings who followed them, etc. And then it also gives, they also give some small stories about kings. That is basically to describe or rather give some ethical value system to the society. For example, the importance of bhakti. So they will discuss the story of the king. There is one Ambarisha, Bhakta Ambarisha. So they will show how that Bhakta Ambarisha, under all trying circumstances, he was so devoted to Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu saves him. So that is one exemplary story of a devotee. And some other exemplary story of somebody who was having this virtue of donation, dhanam. So somebody who does not say no to anybody. So anyway, you go and ask anything, you ask his clothes, he will give, you ask his ornaments, he will give, you ask for his body, he will give. So it is like that. So such people, such exemplary characters, somebody who is again a stickler to truth. So like this, a lot of ethical system, all these ethical values and system that ethical framework for the society was provided by these Puranas. So this is what we see, and the meaning of Purana also is interesting. Purana is Pura api navam, iti Puranam. Pura api navam means, if you know Sanskrit, you will know, understand it. Pura api navam, though it is old, it is relevant even now. That is the meaning. Pura api navam, though it is old, it is new. New means it is relevant even now. So that is the meaning of it. So from this, what do we see? That the Vedic sages, the sages who visualized all these, say, Upanishads, and then who propagated this Upanishadic philosophy, they had the vision to integrate and harmonize different systems which existed in the society. And then they also have to devise a particular way of saying. For example, Veda is so cut and dry. It is so, it is something like a mandate. It is something like an order. You may come to the next, say, slide. Veda is something like an order. Order by, suppose by your boss, order by your parent. You do this, you do this, you do this. Satyam vada, dharmam chara, swadhyayan ma pramadaha. So like that, it is an order. It is an order, you do this, you do not do this. So that is an order, it is a direction to do or not to do a thing, some do's and don'ts. Then, these Purana and Itihasa, they are like some friendly discourses. Friendly discourses, they give an example of a king. So a so-and-so particular king, he followed this particular path and he attained fame. And then he was so righteous, he was so good, and then he was having all these virtues, and then he followed these virtues, and then he was so famous. So all these examples are given. So it is something like a textbook of law. Veda is something like a textbook of law, and the Purana is something like a case law. If you are a student of law, there are two words called law and case law. Case law is how a particular section of law is applied to a particular situation. Law, the textbook on law, it gives a definition. What is theft? So theft means you should have an intention to steal. So casually you are going and then there is something which is found there and then you have taken home. It is not, doesn't amount to theft. Suppose you know that it is somebody's property and then you are stealing. So that what is called mens rea, M-E-N-S-R-E, mens, it is some Latin word. Say that is a guilty mind. You have got an intention to steal. You know that it is somebody's property and you are stealing him, you are taking it without his permission, without his knowledge. So that is what is called the ingredients. So this case law is explained in certain cases, say in certain, by way of some illustrations. So Veda is something like a law and Purana is something like a case law, giving some illustrations how Harishchandra stood for truth and how Ambarisha was a great devotee and how Lord Shibi or some Karna, he was known for his charity, quality of charity. So all these things, all these stories, they are told to children, and all these stories they get get assimilated in our brain, and so that is why all these stories, they are all part of the collective memory of even the illiterate villagers. You go to illiterate villagers in India and ask about some story of some Shibi or ask about some other Puranic story, they will be knowing. They will be knowing some story. Whoever, say whatever Purana is, say generally popular in that area, they will be knowing those stories. So this was the structure of communication in olden days. Say Purana, this Veda is something like a lordly or rather a commanding tone. They tell in a sort of mandatory tone. And this Purana tells in the story in the form of a sort of friendly tone. There is another level also called Sahityam. Sahityam is literature. Of course, we are not going into that. I am not dealing with that. Generally, in our tradition, we talk about three levels. One is called Prabhu Samhita, somebody which is giving a mandatory, an order. And the second is Mitra Samhita, that is somebody, a friendly text. The third level is Kanta Samhita. Suppose somebody, some lady love, your lover, comes to you and she tells in a very, very gentle way, oh my dear, let us do this, let us do this. So that is how literature is supposed to function. Literature is supposed to counsel us, it is supposed to give us good advice, just as your lover gives an advice to you. So that is, these three levels are told in our tradition. So anyway, these people, these stories which are there in the Puranas, they are so, lucid, so clear, and then most of the stories, they have got some allegorical, meaning also. Particularly the stories relating to gods and demons, they are all having these allegorical meanings. So these stories can be understood by people of all ages. A student, a boy, a child who is about 5-6 years, that child also will understand the story. Suppose you tell the story of some king, some other story from Gajendra, some story of an elephant which is rescued by Lord Vishnu. So all these stories, there is a dramatic element in that. So the drama, all that description, the dramatic element, that is enjoyed by even a child. And then an elderly man also respects it, he enjoys it, because he relates it to his devotion, his sense of devotion. A philosopher also enjoys it, because a philosopher sees the philosophical significance. So a child understands the dramatic portion. A slightly older man, because he is a devotee or a believer, he enjoys from that point of view. A philosopher enjoys from a higher point of view. So depending on your level of maturity, you enjoy these stories. So that is the greatness of these Puranas. So you come to the next slide. Now let us see about what is the meaning of gods and demons. So this is again, this is a very, very important thing. Gods and demons, we should not think that these gods are there on one side, equipped with some weapons and all that, well dressed, and then probably more handsome. And then demons are another group, not so handsome, maybe looking crude and all that. And then they are also equipped with some weapons, maybe equally great weapons, or maybe greater weapons. So sometimes it happens. So we should not visualize like that, because this is the basic thing which we have to understand, that gods and demons, they are basically symbolic in nature. And the authority is, I am referring to this Chandogya Upanishad, where the commentator Shankaracharya, he very in a great detail, he tells about what is a god and what are these gods and demons. So he says that the battle between these gods and demons is a sort of symbolic description of the battle between good and evil in one's own mind. Because in our own mind, in the human mind, there is always a battle between good and evil. Of course, if you are a small child, there will not be any great battle between good and evil. As the person grows up, there are so many temptations in the world. And then he will see. And then his good nature, his upbringing, it will suggest, okay, what you are doing is wrong. But at the same time, some other compelling temptation is there. Okay, you do this. So there is a battle. There is some sort of clash between good and evil in human mind. So that is what is symbolically represented as this battle between these gods and demons. So Shankaracharya calls it is an adhyatmika sangrama. Adhyatmika means something which is happening internally. Adhyatmika, adhyatma, something which happens inside. Adhyatmika sangrama, the battle between these gods and demons, is something which is an internal battle in the mind. And then what are all these heavenly lokas? This heavenly world, and also the hell, heaven and hell. What do they represent? They again, we should not think that they are some three-dimensional places hanging out somewhere in the sky, hanging out somewhere in the space rather. So if that is so, it will become the duty of our astronomers to find out what are the coordinates of those, where exactly are they, in which direction are they, and how to go, how to send some, just like we are sending this Mars mission and whatnot, we should send some heaven mission or some hell mission. So they are not some three-dimensional places which are there hanging out somewhere. It is a state of mind, it is a state of experience, it is an experiential state. Lokyate, bhujyate iti lokaha, says Shankaracharya in his commentary in Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad, Asuryana amate lokaha andhe natamasa vrutaha. There is a mantra there. Under that mantra, I think that is the third mantra or so, under that mantra, Say Shankaracharya describes what exactly is the meaning of this loka. Loka means world. Lokyate bhujyate iti lokaha. That is, that which is experienced is what is loka. And another janma also is something like another loka. And in this janma itself, the person, the way he undergoes torture, he has so much of torture in his mind. So that itself is a loka. That itself is either hell, or if he is having some good experience and if he is happy, contented, that itself is heaven. So your own experience is heaven, your own hell, your own happiness is heaven, and your own misery or miserable state is hell. So that is how say such radical explanation is given to the concepts of heaven and hell by our philosophers. So this heavenly world, heaven and hell, they are different states of experience. And then there are, if we see this Upanishad, if we see this Puranas, there are so many allegorical episodes. Allegorical episodes, some small episodes are there even in the Upanishads, telling about the rivalry between the gods and demons. For example, if you see Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, for example, if you see an Upanishad called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, another Upanishad called say Chandogya Upanishad, there you find this rivalry between these gods and demons. They both go to their creator. After all, both gods and demons, they are also created by only one creator. So they go to the creator and then they want the supreme knowledge, so that by that supreme knowledge they will become more powerful. They can vanquish the enemy. So this is again a very say allegorical tale. Say such things, they are elaborated in greater detail in the Puranas. So you can come to the next say slide. So here I can tell about the Purana. Purana in English we usually call mythology. Purana, the ordinary word, the general word which is used in English is mythology or mythological tale, mythology. And of course there is a lot of say writing on what is mythology, and particularly the modern psychologists. One psychologist called Carl Jung, C-A-R-L, Carl, J-U-N-G, Carl Jung, he has say done a lot of study on these Puranas. Of course the Western approach to Puranas is slightly different. Western, of course, approach to Puranas is slightly different. Our approach to Puranas is slightly different. Our approach is that whatever is the message in those Upanishads, they have been told in an allegorical manner to the common man. That is, Purana is a way of bringing that philosophical thought to the common man. So that is our approach. And this allegorical tale is there, the good and evil. Good is represented as a deva and evil is represented as a devil, etc. Whereas in the Western philosophy, sometimes there are different types of interpretations, and sometimes they say this is say what Carl Jung says is a mythology. It is there. It is a collective dream. He says a mythology is the collective dream of a society. He defines it that way. And then it is there in the collective unconscious of a society. So all those concepts we need not go into. Their approach sometimes is different, and sometimes it is it leads to wrong interpretation of our books, because sometimes some of these Western writers, they have wrongly interpreted. For example, there is a story of a god and demon. They say God refers to somebody who is a white man, and demon is something who is a dark man. So these Aryans who came to India, they subjugated or vanquished all these dark-skinned people in India, and then they made them their slaves. So basically, to create some divisions in society, they made some wrong interpretations, but that is precisely wrong. It's a totally wrong interpretation that we have to forget about it. So we should not bother about what the Western psychologists say. First of all, we have to understand our symbolism. If we understand the approach of our rishis, approach of our the people who have written these these Puranas, then we will properly have an idea. So this Purana, let us see, a very popular story is about Shakti. Shakti, there are so many names for this Shakti. For example, there is what is called Devi Bhagavatam. Devi Bhagavatam is one again very fairly big text. It is about 500-600 pages text. So it tells about the concept of Shakti. So these followers, they show Shakti as the supreme reality. And then from that Shakti, all this thing has emerged and things like that. Of course, they also show Shiva, they also show Vishnu, they also show various other gods. So that is, in that story, for example, Shakti is there, and then she is supposed to be the consort of Shiva. Shiva represents the consciousness, and the manifesting power is that Shakti. And because the manifesting power is based on consciousness, so Shiva is portrayed there is a pictorial representation, there is a figurative representation. If you go to a temple and see, of course temples we don't see that, but we see in portraits. Suppose you see some portrait of Lalita, you may Google search and then find the story of see the picture of a Lalita. There Lord Shiva is there reclining on a bed, and this goddess is sitting on him. So for a long time I never understood the symbolism. What exactly is this? Why that gentleman should be sleeping on the bed, and then on him this lady is sitting, and then she is having some what is the sugar cane in her hand, and then there are some 5 arrows in her hand, and then she is having some other flowers and various things in her hands. So if we see what is the symbolism, Shiva symbolizes consciousness, and this manifesting power is shown as that Lalita, Shakti. So Shakti means energy, Shakti means power. So this manifesting power is based on this consciousness. So that is why Shiva is shown as reclining, and because she is based on that, she is seen seated on this consciousness. And then this mind is shown as the sugarcane bough. The human mind, not only human mind, but even an animal mind, whatever is the mind, this phenomena called mind, it can belong to it may be a dog's mind or an elephant's mind or a human mind. Because this mind is acting on the information which is brought by the senses. The 5 senses bring so much of information to us, and then the mind processes all that information, and it is the mind which enjoys. It is the mind which derives happiness. So that is why this mind is represented as the sugarcane bough, and the 5 arrows are the 5 senses which the human being has. So if you see the symbolism of this Lalita, the basic symbolism will be like this. And then based on that, there is a story how she vanquishes some demons and whatnot. So we'll see, say in the next session. Thank you.